Hey everybody, it's Dr. Matthew Hertert here again with Center Chiropractic in Boalsburg, Pennsylvania, just outside State College and Penn State University. And today I have a short video for Gonstead practitioners. I don't think I've done anything specifically for practitioners yet, so this is one of our most important instruments, really only after our hands, and I guess you could make an argument about the nervoscope, but this is a really important tool, and there are some very simple things that you can do to take care of this, to make it work better and last longer. You do not need to be mechanically inclined or a techie in any way, shape, or form to do this stuff. This stuff is like, it's less complex than changing your oil in your car. It's really about as easy as it gets. So the first general note I'd say about this is write it in your book every month. So you just do it. Have your staff come remind you, tonight's the night you want to clean your bench. If you're going to a marketing thing or a ball game, just tell them, oh, I can't do it tonight, write on the book for tomorrow or next week or whatever it is. Even if you're somebody who's really good about being consistent with stuff, just put it in your book so that you honor your machine, your tool, by taking good care of it. The second thing is you really want to do this like on Friday night before you leave for the weekend, or if you see people on Saturdays, you want to do it at the end of your day on Saturday. Everything you're going to use to work on the machine here just about smells. It's got a stink to it, and not only is that unpleasant to walk into in a clinical setting, but a lot of our patients are particularly sensitive to those smells. So you want to do it in a way where the place has time to air out for a couple of days. If you're in a tiny room in a shopping mall or something with no windows, I'm not really sure how you deal with that. I haven't had an office space like that. I guess a deionizer and fans would probably be good, or if you've got central air, maybe that'll clean it out. Here I've got windows that I can open up, scented candles, incense might help, but you want to do it in a way where it's smart and you don't end up bothering your patients because they won't want to come back. The other thing is working on this while you're doing the cleaning, you're going to get used to the smell. So walking out, you may think it smells fine, but you might come back in the next morning to an unpleasant surprise. So if you do that, show up early the next morning so you can just smell the room and make sure it's not a problem. You might want to come real early in case it is a problem. The other thing is when we're done with the video here, just as I'm going, take little notes about stuff. Write it up and just tape it to the underside of your bench here. So I've got my little crib sheet here in case I haven't done it in a while or I'm busy thinking about other stuff. I don't really have to think. I can just read my cheat sheet there. So there are a couple things you're going to want, resources you're going to want to work with this machine. The first is you're going to want either stainless steel cleaner, not stainless steel wool, but stainless steel cleaner, or you're going to want Pledge. You're going to want some sort of furniture polish that's waxy in nature. Second thing you're going to want is silicone spray, which you can get at any hardware, auto store, Walmart, Kmart, any of that stuff. You should be able to find silicone spray there for it. And you don't need a specific brand or anything fancy, just silicone spray, which is a lubricant. You're going to want Simple Green or some other kind of cleaner that does not have alcohol in it, and I'll explain later why that's important. And then you're going to want an old toothbrush or a scrubby, like one of those dish scrubbies that's kind of like soft steel wool, something you can kind of clean a little bit with. And you're going to want a pencil and probably a tape measure, at least the first time you do this. You're going to want a tape measure to go with the pencil. So I'll get to all those things in time. You'll understand what everything's for. Some of the maintenance you do in the up position, some you do in the down position. So the up stuff basically consists of three things. You're going to clean the shaft that the upper half of the bench rides up and down on. Okay, you'll be lubricating it at the same time. Second thing is you're going to clean the shaft that the bottom part of the bench rides on and the two shafts that the foot relaxer, the part that your shins rest on, that those slide on. And then the third thing is you're going to clean the threaded rod inside just underneath the pelvic bench here, is the one that attaches to the handles on the side that allow you to adjust the pelvic height. So in turn here, I don't know why, but I always start with the upper part. So I start by lifting the bench all the way up, and then I get a rag, which I didn't mention, so you'll need a rag too, or a handful of paper towels, and I just soak it with the Pledge. I use Pledge. It seems to do the trick fine, and I've never looked for stainless steel cleaner. So I soak the rag, and then what you're doing is you're just cleaning the shaft here. What I mean by the shaft, because you've got two tubes, is if you look at this big silver tube, you're not worried about that. What you're worried about is the tube that sits above it, which I'm calling the shaft. And it's got this handle that you use to tighten it down, mounts into a sleeve that rides up and down on that shaft. So that shaft is what you want to be cleaning here. So you just clean it until it's really nice, looks clean. You can run your fingers over there and you don't feel any junk on it, like it feels like it's clean. And then what I do is I tend to get a lot of the pledge on there at the top of the shaft, right underneath the sleeve, so that when I do the next step, which is to bring it down, all the way down, you know, I've now forced a bunch of pledge up inside the sleeve to help clean in there and lubricate in there. And then you do the same thing on the top, kind of in reverse. So, you know, clean the whole tube, get a bunch of pledge around the top, and then I just usually run it up and down a couple times to really get that stuff in there, okay? So that's the first thing. Second thing is the same idea as what you did right here, but you're going to do it with the tubes at the bottom that the lower part of the bench rides on. So I'm sure you've noticed as you're lowering the bench down, this is the footrest, and this is the pelvic piece that the patient's pelvis and legs are on. As you let the bench down, those two things move away from each other, right? They kind of do this as you let them down. That exposes tubes in there. Those tubes, and then the two tubes that the shin rest, the foot relaxer, rest on, they pick up a lot of dirt and grime and dust and fuzz because they're so close to the floor. It doesn't matter whether you've got hardwood floors like this or whether you've got carpeted floors. You know, hardwood floor, it's easier for the dust bunnies to get, you know, blown over here just by walking through the room. Carpet, it's always impossible to get all that junk out of there, so there's just a lot of exposure down there. If there's anything on this bench you want to clean more than once a month, these are the pieces you want to do it more than once a month, because they get so much dirt exposure. So you clean those two thoroughly, you know, basically just like I described here. I don't think I need to go into a lot of detail about it. Then you're going to shift gears a little bit. You're done with the pledge, you're done with the rag for the time being. What you're going to get next is your silicone spray and your toothbrush or your scrubby. I killed my toothbrush last week when I was maintaining this and forgot to bring another one down, so I'm just going to use the scrubby. So what you're doing here is lubricating this threaded rod in here. If you look around the bench here, you'll see this is the only threaded rod on here. So it's kind of, unless you've got a variation on a Hilo, it's hard to clean the wrong thing or lubricate the wrong thing here. You'll see a couple pieces that may look threaded because they've got springs on them that are compressed really tightly, so it kind of looks threaded. This is the only threaded piece here, is the one that these handles attach to. And so what you do here is you kind of run the wheels to one extreme or the other. You run them all the way in or all the way out. I start with it all the way out because I can actually get my hands in there. And then you just spray silicone spray all over that threaded rod. And then as you run these wheels back and forth all the way 2 or 3 times to really get that silicone spray worked in and spread around, you put the toothbrush or the scrubby on the wheel, on the threaded rod, and you just let the wheels push it along, so you're also cleaning it at the same time. So all this information I'm sharing with you comes through the manufacturer. I got it through the Gonstead Clinical Studies Society. Thank God for them sharing that. So if you're not a GCSS member, you should be. We need the money for research. So they're not endorsing this. I just feel pretty strongly about that. So I got the information from the manufacturer. It seems like the primary concern here and down here is cleaning, and the secondary benefit is lubrication. Whereas here the primary concern is lubrication, the secondary benefit is cleaning. I added in the part about the scrubby and the toothbrush. That's not from them. So that does it basically for stuff in the up position. Now, there are a couple things you're going to do in the down position. Before I let it down, let me say, if you ever have a question about whether there's a hydraulic problem with the bench, the way you test it is you leave the bench up overnight, and when you come in the morning, you check to see if it's still all the way up. If you've got a hydraulic problem, most likely what's going to happen, one of the surest ways to tell is that the bench is going to fall a little bit during the night. So if you come in the morning and it's even a 1/4 inch lower than it was, there's a pretty good chance that that you've got a hydraulic problem. Another way to do it, see my bench when it's all the way up, and I know these vary again, when my bench is all the way up, it's pretty close to vertical, so gravity isn't really pulling on it. So if I were to test it, what I would do is I would let it down, I don't know, to maybe about 45 degrees, so there's more gravitational pull trying to pull it down. And I would take a piece of tape, like masking tape, and tape it just to anywhere on the pipe here, and pull it tight to the base. Okay, so you're pulling the tape tight, not like super tight, but tight enough that it's taut. So that way you don't have to memorize the angle it's at when you come in the morning if that tape seems slack at all. Again, either you've got mice horsing around in your office overnight, or this has fallen a little bit and you probably have a hydraulic problem. The hardest thing, for those of you who are not mechanically inclined, the hardest thing for hydraulics is to have this bench up overnight. It's a physical force, and if you leave your bench up every night, what will happen over time is you'll break down the gaskets and the seals in there, and you'll need to have expensive work done on the bench. So always, always, always put it down at night. I mean, I forget once in a blue moon, you know, it's just human nature, but always make sure you put it down. I don't do it at lunch. I only go away for about, you know, an hour, hour and a half during lunch. Pardon me, so I don't think you need to do it at lunch. I don't know what Hilo would say about that. The other thing that's nice to have as a resource for this bench is to find an old mechanic in your area who knows hydraulics to use as a secondary resource. I say secondary because the company that maintains my x-ray machine also services and buys benches and that sort of thing, so they know how to service this. But they're almost 2 hours away. You know, they can't come in a pinch. They're far more expensive than this mechanic I found through another Gonstead doc in town. And, you know, and this guy looked at the bench for 5 minutes and understood the whole thing, because it's not a complicated machine. It's actually a fairly simple machine. So, you know, he shows up, he reeks of cigars and motor oil, but he's here for 10 minutes, he fixes it, he goes, he doesn't charge me very much. So it's nice to find somebody in your area who can do that. Now, once you're down, you've got just a couple other things that you're going to do here. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to test the hydraulic fluid level, okay? And that's what the pencil is for. And I said tape measure maybe. The reason a tape measure is important is because you want to figure out where 1.5 inches up the pencil is. And I use the back end, so I don't run the pencil. And you know, if you're good with measurement like me, you can just eyeball it, but you want to go up 1.5 inches, and you just press your thumbnail against the pencil there. So I'm just, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm just pressing my thumbnail against there 1.5 inches up. Now what I do is I go to the cap where I put the hydraulic fluid in. If you don't know where that is, when the bench is in the up position, there's a plastic cover that covers the engine, right? With one cap screwed down on top of it. That cap is where the hydraulic oil goes down. So with the bench down, you can't do it with it up, you won't get an accurate testing. You take that cap off, and then you basically stick the pencil in the opening just until your thumb at 1.5 inches comes to rest on the top of the rim of the opening. You pull the pencil out, and you should see oil on the end of the pencil. If you don't see oil on the end of the pencil, it means you really need to add hydraulic oil. So that's another thing, a good thing just to keep around your office. I've just got a little crate that I keep all these things in that relate to cleaning the bench, so I can just go grab it and come do this. So you've got to keep, probably the two most important things you can do to keep your bench healthy are to let it down every night and to make sure you've always got the right level of hydraulic oil in there. Just like if you change your oil in your car more frequently, it's going to last a lot longer than if you don't do that. So once you've done that, the last thing really to do in this position is to clean the vinyl on the top here. Now that's the reason I recommended Simple Green. Simple Green, as far as I can tell, really is non-toxic. I mean, I'm sure that's on a relative scale of toxicity. The most important thing about this is it doesn't have alcohol in it. It doesn't really matter whether you've got leather or vinyl on your bench, and I don't know if any benches ever were made with leather, pardon me. But alcohol will dry this stuff out over time and make it crack and split. So do not use an alcohol-based cleaner on this. Like I said, Simple Green is good. It does stink. You know, you can cut it with something. There's no reason not to water it down like that. And that's basically it. I think that's all the high points. I'm just looking at my cheat sheet over here. Yeah, so that's it. So, yeah, there was one other thing, which is that I still have all my latex exam gloves left over from school because I never really used them for anything. I always put them on when I'm maintaining the bench, because this stuff, chemicals are not good for you, even if you're only touching them once a month. It's one of the major changes that and the way food is grown and manufactured in the last 40 years, while chronic illness has been going up and up and up in our country. My grandma, probably your grandma too, cleaned the house with vinegar water, and now everybody's got 50 chemicals in their house. So, just put a pair of gloves on, take good care of yourself, stick them in the crate with a cleaner so you won't forget them. So that's it. Post any questions you have. I don't know that I have anything to add, but be happy to chat at you. Keep on doing the good work, and God bless you for following Gonstead.